So it's my pleasure actually to introduce our first keynote speaker today, Kathryne Cooper. Kathryne is the co-director of the West Coast Consortium for Technology and Innovation in Pediatrics, also known as CTIP. It's an FDA-funded medtech accelerator based at the Children's Hospital in Los Angeles. CTIP's goal is to facilitate the development, production, and distribution of medical devices for kids by identifying companies that are working in the space and providing advice, networking, and financial support to help them get to commercialization. Kathryne is a native Angelino, as am I. She earned her bachelor's degree in human biology from Stanford, an M.B.A. from USC, and a certificate in venture capital finance from UC Berkeley. She serves on the board of directors of the Bertrand F. Cooper MD Scholarship Fund at the Howard University College of Medicine, the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Task Force at the Lloyd Grafe Center for Entrepreneurial Studies at the USC Marshall School of Business. And she's on the advisory board for WeSTEM, which is Women in Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math. WeSTEM seeks to empower a generation of women to lead Los Angeles's STEM revolution through mentorship, networking, and community building. So she doesn't seem like a fabulous first keynote speaker. I don't know who would be. So with that, Kathryne, let me turn it over to you.
Hey guys, super excited to chat with you guys. So anyway, it's interesting to come on to do a keynote in which I'm going to tell you guys a little bit more about me, having just heard my bio. So spoiler alert, you've heard the highlights, but I want to, I guess, unpeel the onion or apples, like whatever you peel these days, to explain a little bit about like kind of, you've heard essentially like my highlight reel, but what does it look like beyond the highlight reel? And so this is something that I've found really helpful when I've talked with mentors and folks that I aspire to be. It's really easy to see kind of like someone's best shots, but you want to understand how they got there. So I wanted to tell you guys a little bit more about that in not the perfectly presented way. So I was given the option to have slides or not. I opted for no, because I've, despite having an MBA, I've never seen a slide deck I didn't like. I'll stop kind of rambling. It's also strange to just be giving a keynote and have no feedback at all, but here we are. So bear with me, guys. So as Stacy mentioned, I'm a native Angelino. So I'll give you my version of the bio, the way I like to introduce myself on panels, and then I'll unpeel the onion kind of one step at a time. I heard I have like 10 minutes, so I'm actually going to start my timer so I don't ramble on too much, because I know there are some really, really awesome sessions and keynotes after this. So I'm a native Angelino. I started my career at Stanford. I majored in human biology and I was pre-med. Then I went to 3 years of medical school at USC before realizing being a practicing clinician wasn't for me. So what do you do with a Stanford degree and 3/4 of med school? I heard about these things called startups. I thought startups would be an exciting way to learn a ton of how to have a job skills in a very short period of time. And healthcare was what I had domain expertise in. So I started working in health tech startups, first in super nerdy clinical analyst, clinical study type roles, and slowly transitioned into strategy and business development, which I liked a lot better. After having roles at a few health tech companies, I'm a sucker for school. So I went back to USC and did an MBA part-time while I was working full-time. And then I connected with a friend from medical school who was advising CTIP, the accelerator that Stacy mentioned at the time. And so it's a medtech accelerator based at Children's Hospital, Los Angeles. And they wanted to add someone to the team that had clinical and business experience, and he thought of me. So I said, okay, why not? I'll like kind of opt into this, go to an interview, see what it's like. Had I, led and run an accelerator before? No, but I will pretty much say yes to anything just to see what it's like. And so that started my journey with CTIP since 2017, and has then kind of opened up a lot of doors. But if there's anything in this story, I say yes to a lot of stuff without fully knowing exactly what I'm signing up for or really opening the door to. So if I even talk about Stanford to medical school. So Stacy mentioned I'm on the board of a scholarship fund at the Howard University School of Medicine. When I was a junior in college, my father passed away from lung cancer, and we started a scholarship fund in his name. He was a physician where he went to medical school. So medicine had kind of always been in my life. even though it's not like my father was forcing me to be a physician. It was just something I liked and I thought was really interesting. And it was strange to have then done all the things, gone to medical school, and realized maybe this journey isn't for me. So this is kind of like what I might describe as a big leap in my journey, right? So I decided to leave, and who leaves medical school because you're going to become a doctor? And then what do you do after that when you leave? And so I tried to look at what I thought I could do, what I was good at, and what I was interested in. So what I thought I could do was honestly anything. I may have had a very high level of confidence that may or may not be correct. And then what I was interested in, which was healthcare and impacting patient lives. So that's what really drew me into medicine. And I thought as a practicing clinician, you could impact patients one-on-one. Then when I understood these things called health tech startups and just healthcare businesses, I could have a slightly further removed experience from a patient experience, but actually impact patient outcomes on a larger scale. So it was interesting and kind of telling to me. And it took me a while to connect those dots that that's what I was doing. So I would encourage you guys, as you think about your why when you do different jobs, it doesn't have to be the same why all the time, but you think about what actually drives you, and then it'll kind of motivate you to the next step. So I got involved in health tech startups, and I also put myself out there for positions that I hadn't necessarily done before. So I like to say that I started in super nerdy clinical study analyst type roles. So I worked in an evidence-based medical company from the beginning. What does that mean? It means that I read a lot of clinical studies and helped them digitize them. It was literally the nerdiest role one could have. But having come out of medical school, I had read a lot of studies and it was easy and interesting. But they started a new division within the startup that was kind of like a business within a business. And I thought I could be involved in product management. I thought I could kind of help them build out this website and system that connected people who were making clinical medical guidelines across the world. Had I really known what product management was? No. I did a quick Google. I asked some friends who were in startups in SF, and then I just kind of went in and said that I could do this, and someone said, okay, and they let me. So I would encourage you guys that if you think about wanting to wait until a door is open for you versus kind of finding a crack and then like opening it for yourself, that you can do that, and it's totally fine and totally acceptable. You know, the only rules that you're really making are for yourself. And now I'll take a little step back and say, you know, why did I go back to business school and what was that like? I had worked for a while within and around health tech startups. I had moved into strategy and biz dev roles. And I liked those, but I felt like the experience I was getting was only directly tied to the role that I was doing at the time. So I wanted to take a step back, be exposed to other aspects of business. Maybe I was going to realize I was a finance genius. That was not true, but I thought maybe it was possible going back to business school. But what business school kind of taught me was to really expand my network. I had been in the healthcare space for so long, and I just knew like kind of lots of folks in healthcare, but less people in the business world and less people where that overlapped. And that overlapped with the time that I started at CTIP and really carved out for myself being the head of our investment team at CTIP, connecting our startups with sources of funding and figuring out ways to strategically help entrepreneurs. So I had now kind of pivoted roles versus I used to work in health tech startups, and now I funded health tech startups. But having worked in them before, I kind of knew what an early stage healthcare company might need and how you could build out a network that could support them. So I like to say that I took nuggets of what I had done before and then a high level of confidence of what I thought I could do next and kind of merge them into different roles. My most exciting claim to fame for business school is something that came after. So in business school, you read case studies about a protagonist, a business or a company, and some sort of challenge. So what I'm really proud of that we did at CTIP was making sure we supported a set of diverse entrepreneurs. And I mean that diverse across the medical device space as it applies to children. I mean diverse in terms of the types of entrepreneurs, whether they're people of color or women, and really thinking that we could source companies from anywhere. And so we have an incredible portfolio of over 100 companies. I think 60% are women-led, 30% have someone in the C-suite that's a person of color, which among med tech is pretty high in terms of diversity metrics. And then from that, through my involvement from USC and being on a DEI task force at the business school, they decided that I would be the subject of a case study written about me and my work at CTIP in the investment world, in the med device space, and how we built our accelerator to support these entrepreneurs. And the case study was really like, when I say it's about me, I mean like they did a deep dive into not just the highlight reel of your background, but what did you like to do when you were up? Did you always know you wanted to be in healthcare? And it was very interesting. I'm not super open. So it's funny having been in business school, reading case studies about folks who are, Fortune 500 C-suite executives, and you don't think that you can see yourself reflected in them. And then someone says, hey, no, we want to write a case study about you and your experience. You realize your experience is just as valuable. It may be different, but it's equally valuable. So now I've been a keynote or drop-in guest to both undergraduates and business schools where the case study has been taught. And I get folks like yourself who are asking me real questions about my life, which is like between point A and point B, why did you make X decision? So I'm gonna wrap this up, and who knows how long I've been talking, but let me see what my timer says to me. Oh, look, 8 minutes and 30 seconds. So try not to go over time. And since I've done a lot of stuff, what you heard from Stacy was how I get introduced on panels or the bio that's written about me online. But if you unpack the layers of that, it was a lot of thinking through what I liked, thinking through what I was good at, and thinking through what I could possibly convince someone that I could do, and then going and doing that, and then doing it again for something maybe slightly related, but a little bit different. And then continuing to do that as you go layer by layer and step by step. So if you did my bio even 5 or 6 years ago, it wouldn't sound like it does today. Now it sounds like this fun thing. It sounds like, oh, look, read this case study about my life, et cetera, et cetera. But it wasn't always that way. And so I think you should think of what you're doing now as like, there's value in each aspect of your experience. And someone else can get value from each aspect of that experience, but you can as well. So my little, experience in product management, for example, at our startup, was helpful when we needed to build out our website for our MedTech Accelerator. Did I think that would like circle back in terms of experience being helpful, like 6, 7, 10 years down the line? No, but you really never know. So I don't know. I would just encourage you guys to do you and know that that's totally fine. And I'll stop there.